everyone, and welcome to today's Leagues 4 video. And today's a pretty big one. We're going to be bringing a kind of like a beginner guide to the Tombs of Amascut raid. Now, I know a lot of you are using Leagues as an opportunity to get your kind of like toes in the water, so to speak, and get a little bit of experience with PVM content. And that's a great idea, and I really encourage that. So I wanted to kind of put out a beginner guide on for a lot of you on how to actually get your first Tombs of Amascut raid done. And the goal with this video is to introduce you to a basic 150 invocation level. We'll talk about invocation in a bit. Move your way up to a 300, and then also get you up to a 500. Now, if you've never done a raid before, it's pretty simple. Unlike other bosses, it's actually a series of bosses. So you're going to have to be doing 5 bosses in this raid, Tombs of Amascut. And you don't actually get any loot until you complete the entirety of the raid. So you don't get loot for every single boss. You have to do all 5, which really makes it kind of like a boss gauntlet that can take, 30, 40, maybe even more. But you do get some of the best rewards in the game. We're not really going to talk about the rewards. Hopefully you know why you're going to do this, but regardless, let's actually just talk about the raid itself. Now, I mentioned Invocation, and this is kind of why Tombs of Amascut is such a good beginner-friendly raid, and why it's a really good opportunity for you to go ahead and experience your first raid in RuneScape. Basically, the difficulty of Tombs of Amascut is scalable. You can add invocations, which are kind of like bonus challenges or special features or restrictions that will increase the difficulty of the raid. Not only do they have certain difficulties, so for example, hardcore run limits your overall number of like deaths you can make inside the raid to 1, so you can only die once and then you get kicked out. But it will also increase the invocation level, which you can see by this number, 150, 305, 505, whatever, right? Basically, what you need to know, though, is that good loot only starts dropping at like 150. Before then, your chance of actually getting loot is pretty bad. So I would generally recommend to try to start at that 150 level. On top of that, deaths do punish your actual chance of loot. So our goal here is to not die very much either. The invocation level also just increases like the raw stats the monsters have. So for example, not only will a 300 invocation level be harder because there's more restrictions, but just the stats of all the monsters inside will be harder. So as you get to some of the higher invocations, you might also feel a little restricted by the gear that you have, and you might just end up like missing a lot or not getting hits in. And that can be kind of like a hard restriction on you pushing your invocation level up. You might need to also go get your stats up, get some better gear, maybe get some potions that will kind of give you a little bit more of your stats and like more boosts as well. So again, the goal here is get you into your first 150. We're going to be focusing on solo, but I will be talking about some of the group aspects of Tombs of Amascut as well. And then you're going to be pushing to 305, which is the expert level, and definitely increases the chance of getting loot as you get higher and higher and higher invocation level. So here's our 150 setup. You can see that we have no invocations turned on for how many deaths you can limit. So this would be limiting your overall number of deaths to 10. We're not even going to turn that on. Okay, you have infinite lives in here. You have infinite timer in here. So we're not going to have any kind of timer. You do get supplies inside of the raid, and we're not going to restrict those at all. So you're basically getting as much supplies, as much time, as much life as you need. We're starting off pretty slow here, okay? Now, for the invocations that we are going to do, it's going to be focusing on boss mechanics. And I personally think that this is the best way for you to learn Tombs of Amascut and get better as a player, is by starting off by learning the boss mechanics. That way you have a good foundation of what the boss feels like when it's properly done at the higher invocations, as opposed to putting restrictions on your own character and then having to add mechanics down the line. I think it's much better to just start off learning the mechanics properly, and then if you do struggle with them, you can turn some of them off. So let's say you're struggling with like aerial assault, for example, you can turn it off and maybe find something else, maybe like a life restriction, and then slowly build your way back up to kind of having the complete set of boss mechanics done. So we do have deadly prayers here, where your prayer is drained by 20% of your damage taken. Honestly, this just means that you're going to have to sip a bit more prayer potions, but for 20 raid level, it's pretty worth it. And in general, guys, just as a heads up, there's a lot of considerations that you can make for these, but I'm just kind of giving my list. So, just try to understand that like I'm doing my best to have like an overall good setup for everybody on their first Tombs of Amascut. So, if you disagree, if you want to do something, it's fully customizable, do as you please. We'll talk more about the boss invocations once we're actually in the bosses, but most of these are pretty free. So this is 3 for Kephri that we're doing. Kephri will double the number of eggs spawned. Very simple. Kephri's Dung special will be twice as potent. In a solo, this is completely free, and in parties, it's not that bad either. It just means that there's more poop lines during Kephri. And Aerial Assault, I think this one's very worth learning, and basically, it just means that Kephri's like bomb attack is going to be a 3x3 instead of a 1x1, but it's very worth learning. For Zebak, the Crocodile, we're going to be doing 3 invocations as well. Just Ahead gives Zebak access to blood magic, which is really all it does is a bit of magic damage to you every now and then, and summons a bit of just a bit of lifesteal. But honestly, it's very easy to deal with. The blood clouds are also easy. Arterial Spray just means that blood magic is going to be like an AoE. So in a solo, this is completely free. In a party, you just need to spread out a bit. And for blood thinners, the blood magic will be split into 3, and their health is increased. It's really not that bad. I actually think this one's easier than the really big blood ball following you because the 3 red balls are kind of easier to deal with. Now for Akkha, we're not going to be running any invocations, although I do think that Feeling Special is very worth learning. All this does is it speeds up the special attack, like the Simon Says minigame a little bit. It's really worth learning, although I know for some people they get a little bit stressed about this one just because it's a little bit faster and a little bit tighter on the timing. But yeah, I would recommend learning this one and just turning off Deadly Prayers. We'll be doing both when we get to the 300 level anyways, though. But just because I know a lot of people struggle with it, I decided to keep it off for the 150. Now, for Baba, we're going to be doing Mind the Gap. This just means you have to stay out of the middle. Again, this is something that a lot of people will probably struggle with learning. So if you do need to turn it off and put something else in, that's fine. Again, I just really recommend you learning the mechanics of the bosses, getting in the habit, because if you start learning Baba with the mindset of, okay, I need to dodge the middle and not fall into the gap, that's going to help you in the long run, as opposed to being 300, 350, and now you have to learn Mind the Gap, and you're going to lose a lot of deaths to very high invocation rates because you didn't put the time in at the start to actually learn it properly. And again, we'll talk about Mind the Gap when we get there. You also have got to have Faith. This is pretty much free. It just deals a little bit of bonus damage based on Missing Prayer, but it's completely negligible. Jungle Japes has some baboons that drop bananas on the floor. You can usually just dodge these bananas, but even if you run into them, it's very little damage. It's very, very rare that it actually leads to anything catastrophic. And shaking things up, this is actually a benefit to you. The increased AoE of the Shockwave also gives you more time to dodge it. So yeah, this one's very free. We're going to be skipping Boulder Dash because I actually don't like Boulder Dash, and I think it's a lot easier to just get through the boulders without it. For Wardens, we're going to be using Ancient Haste, which just speeds things up in the Phase 1. Phase 1 is very, very simple, so don't worry about it. Oops, and I actually screwed up. It's not supposed to be Penetration. It's supposed to be Acceleration here instead. Basically, the reason is that Penetration, if you get hit, it basically means in Phase 2 of the Wardens, if you get hit by something, you're going to have your overhead prayers disabled, and that can actually lead to like a quick instant KO where you start panicking because your prayers got disabled. So we're going to go with acceleration instead. It just makes it a little bit faster in P2, but it's pretty easy to deal with once you get the hang of it. I know a lot of people struggle with P2 Wardens, but we're going to talk about it. And finally, Overclocked and Overclocked 2. I think both of these are very, very free. We're not going to be going for Insanity yet, though, just because I know a lot of people struggle with that. We don't really need that at the 150 level yet. Okay, moving up to 305. This is kind of the goal that, where you really start to understand the raid and start to get some of the better drops. But we're basically going to be doing everything here. We're not like everything, but we're going to be going with Hardcore Run, which is going to give you only 1 life. Listen, it might be stressful to only have 1 life, and if so, you can always just go to Softcore. Sure, you're going to go down to 295, but I don't think this actually changes anything, except you get a slightly lower drop rate. I don't think there's any tasks specifically for Expert. So if you need to go to Softcore Run, you get 3 lives instead. The biggest reason why I advocate for Hardcore Run is not just because, you shouldn't be dying. I mean, that makes sense. But also because once you start pushing much past 305, you're also going to be restricted by supplies, mainly the smelling salts that you get inside the raid, which buff your combat stats. And if you do die, you might run into an issue where you just don't have any smelling salts left to buff your stats, and now the raid gets really slow and really painful. You might be out of prayer potions and supplies in general, so you might have to restart the raid anyways, you know what I mean, which kind of sucks. So yeah, if you can't do Hardcore Run, feel free to go a Softcore Run. We're also keeping the timers off because, again, unlimited time is good. If you feel comfortable, though, feel free to turn them on. 10 points for 40 minutes is fine, but I like to have them off when I'm learning and just getting into it because you never want to feel like you're restricted. Keep in mind, though, that if you do miss the timer, you're not getting a raid wipe. So let's say we turn this on, we'd go up to 315. However, if we fail that time, it's actually going to be a penalty of 10. So it's actually going to go down to 295 instead. We're getting penalized. We're losing the 10 bonus and we're getting penalized, which is fine. It's still an okay challenge if you want to do it. but just keep that in mind. I prefer the unlimited time. We're not going to go with need some help. We don't need that, but we are going to go with walk the path. What this does is that every single of the 4, like, I guess, demi bosses before the final boss, they get leveled up when you fight one of them. This makes the order a little bit more important, and it's going to change like one thing for the very last room. So we're just going to have to keep that in mind. But otherwise, this is still pretty easy to do. And for 50 points, it's kind of a no-brainer at the 300 level. These ones also increase it, but like it's just not worth it. Walk the Path is so much more worth it at 50 compared to like Pathfinder, which increases them all by 2, and it's only 40 points. So yeah, Walk the Path is very good here. Again, we're going with Deadly Prayers. This is just a bit of prayer drain when you take damage. It's just going to come out to like 1 more prayer potion that you have to bring. And just like in the 150, we're going with 3 Kephri Invocations. We're going with 3 Zebak Invocations. We're not doing Upset Stomach just because this one's a little bit harder. And personally, I find that I die to this one more times than not. So, if you know how to do this one, feel free to, but I personally don't like it. We are going to be putting Feeling Special on. This just makes the memory a little bit faster. And I like this one because I think it just speeds up the whole fight. To be honest, it's actually a bonus to you. It actually makes the raid faster, which is good. You just have to know how to do it, and it's very easy to learn. Very worth learning. Again, we're doing everything for Baba except for Boulder Dash, just because I don't like the fast boulders. It's easier to skip them if they're slower. And for Wardens, we are going to be doing everything, all of them. So Penetration, Acceleration, Ancient Haste, and Insanity. So the whole list, okay? I know this might seem a little stressful. It might make Wardens the hardest part of the fight for some of you, but I think that all of these invocations are very, very free. If you need to turn off like Penetration or something like that, you can. As for Insanity, I would really recommend doing Insanity. I know you guys might be stressed out about it, but we're going to be talking about a little trick that helps make this a lot easier. And personally, it's something that kind of made it like a free mechanic for me. So yeah, we'll talk about Insanity. I think it's very, very worth doing. And that's it's just a kind of hint at it. It's going to be called the Skull Skip. Makes Insanity way easier when you can basically skip having to actually do the skulls. And for the 500, this puts you at like somewhere between like 70% plus at purple, which is really worth doing if you know and you're confident. If you're like confident with it, that's going to be the 505. And this is exactly the same. We're just adding the hard mode challenge. This is a Leagues only challenge, or sorry, Leagues only invocation. And basically what this does is it's an extra challenge that requires at least raid level 300. That's why we need 300 anyways. That's why that's kind of the goal. And this increases your raid level by 200. Now, what does this do? Well, really, all it adds is more stats. Monsters are going to be tankier, they're going to have more health, and they're going to deal more damage. That's it. Otherwise, there are no mechanics different from 305 to 505. You are just basically taking longer because everything is tankier, and it does more damage too. Personally, I think if you can do a 305 and you're confident with your 305, that means you can also do a 505 with Blazing Tombs. I know it's scary to look at that big 500 number, but guys, I think you guys can do it if you're comfortable. And it was a really big help for me to actually get into those higher ones. Obviously, the raid gets a lot slower, but it is worth it for the higher chance of purples. And if you don't want to do it, though, no sweat. You're fine to do it at 305. Maybe you want to push it up to like 320, 330, whatever you like. Personally, though, I like the 505s. And, just keep in mind, though, that when you are doing it at this level, your biggest problem is just going to be that you're going to be missing a lot. You're going to be doing a lot of zeros. And that's just something, even like with your main combat style, I was constantly missing, constantly doing zeros. So it's a bit of a patience game there as well, where you just have to sort of wait it out and let yourself, eventually do enough damage to the boss to get through the finish line. But I thought this was a lot of fun. So yeah, these are our 3 invocation levels. For this video, we're going to be doing the 305, which I think is a nice mix. All it is, a little bit more tighter restrictions compared to the 150. And if you are starting at the 150 level, that's totally fine. Just work your way up, and eventually you're going to get to the 305 level. Maybe that's going to 180, then 200, then 205, then 250, then 280. That's what I did when I first started off. I started at like 200, and I worked my way up until I felt confident, and then I could do the 300 pluses. Then I added the 500 and basically blasted that until I got my shadow. Okay, guys, so let's talk about gear, because it is a little hard in Leagues when everybody has their own main combat style to give like a complete list of everything you can do. Again, there's so much that I could talk about, but as a general combat guide, you want to be using your main combat style as much as you can. For mage and range, this is like 90% of the raid. Honestly, you could, for like 90% of the raid, you can use your main combat style. For melee, it's like 80% or 85%. So you're still using your main combat style a lot, and that's why you really want to be investing in your main combat style. That's where you're going to be doing the most amount of damage. For pretty much all the bosses, your primary combat style that you chose a relic in, that's going to be how you fight them. There's just a couple exceptions, and we'll talk about that once we actually get inside of the raid. Now, for this video, I'm going to be focusing on the Void Knight armor set. Mine has the cosmetic from the like Shattered Relic stuff, but yeah, this is the Void Knight set. You need the Void Knight gloves, the Void Knight top, Void Knight bottom, and the Void Knight top. Okay, so you need 3 pieces of the Void Knight to actually get the bonus, as well as the Void Mage helm. You can see I also have the Void Melee helm and the Void Range helm ready to go. This will require Asgarnia, but if you do have it, I think Void is just the easiest way to get in there, and it's going to make your gear swaps a lot easier. And I know a lot of you probably already have Asgarnia, so that's why I want to go with the Void setup. If you don't have Asgarnia, you do have other options as well. You're just going to basically have to bring a couple of gear swaps. I would mainly focus on top and bottom gear swaps. For your gloves, you probably just want to use a combat bracelet the whole time if you don't have Void. Okay, and then for the rest of the gear, for the cape, I would just use like a fire cape for pretty much all of it. If you have something specific to your combat style, maybe you have a mage cape from the wilderness, maybe you have an Ava's, you could probably just use that for the whole raid. But I like to bring the fire cape because it's just kind of like a nice all around, has some decent defense bonuses. For your amulet, Amulet of Glory works just fine, or you could use a Fury amulet. That's good too. In the ammunition slot, I just bring broad bolts for my crossbow because I will have to range some part of it. Obviously, if you're range, or really if you just have good bolts, you're welcome to use those bolts as well. I would definitely bring enchanted bolts, enchanted ruby bolts, and enchanted diamond bolts if you're going for a range build, because you're going to get a lot of benefit out of actually using the enchanted bolts. For the ring, we're going to be using a Ring of Shadows, which you can get for free with the desert, and obviously you have the desert unlocked because we're in the desert right now. So you can get this over at the Desert Treasure 2 quest area, like there's like a little pyramid. So you can just talk to the NPC there to get a free Ring of Shadows. It's a really nice all-around weapon. Obviously, if you have something else that's good for you, maybe you have like a Berserker ring or a Brimstone ring, something like that, then feel free to use that as well. But Ring of Shadows, nice entry. Boots don't really matter, honestly. I would just bring like dragon boots if you have them. Just for your melee setup, or you could just bring for whatever style you have. So like maybe it's mystic boots, maybe it's like, d'hide boots, something like that. But personally, I would just use like dragon boots just to have a little bit of defensive bonus. Mine are primordial boots because I can't degrade back down to D boots, and I don't really want to go farm D boots just for this video. But yeah, we're just bring D boots or basically whatever boots. It's not that important. I wouldn't really bring swaps. I would just bring 1 boots and camp them for the entire raid. And then again, we talked about the helmet already, but that's just going to be whatever your Void style is, or if you're not bringing Void, this could probably just be like an all-around helmet that has like decent stats. Probably just bring something for your main combat style. I wouldn't really focus on helmet swaps because it's not that important. Okay, and in the inventory, we're basically bringing our. Let's talk about the swaps first. So for my melee, I have the Void melee helm, of course, and then I'm also bringing a Dragon Scimitar and a Dragon Defender with Asgarnia. So this is going to be my melee swap. Nice and simple, right? 1, 2, 3, I swap, right? Dragon Scimitar works just fine. If you have an Abyssal Whip, you can use that as well. If you have the Karis, I think you can probably use that. I think the Karis is slightly weaker than a Dragon Scimitar, but you might not have access to a Dragon Scimitar. I'm just going to be using a Dragon Scimitar though. If your main combat style is melee, then probably the Dragon Longsword is going to be your best because that's a 5-tick weapon. Maybe you have access to a Leaf-Bladed Battle Axe. But yeah, if melee is your main one, I would probably just go with the Dragon Longsword instead. And again, you can see it's very convenient to do this swap. It's 1, 2, 3. Very nice. For our range setup, we're just going to be going with the Void Ranger helm. We're going to be going with the Rune Crossbow, right? Very nice swap. And then we're going for an offhand. It can really be anything. I chose a red d'hide shield, but if you don't have access to that, you could use whatever you want, a dragon shield. And honestly, guys, you don't even have to do it. The only reason why I do it is because, let's say I don't have my shield. It can get a little bit weird when I'm doing my swaps, and I have an offhander, because you see now it's kind of all over the place. If I swap to my range, swap to my mage, something like that, like it just gets a little weird. So it's nice to just have it there because it makes things kind of convenient, and you get this nice 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 to swap to all 3 styles. And this is the only swaps you have to do. Very nice and easy. If you want to bring more swaps, that's perfectly fine. Do what you want. Maybe you want to bring like an occult necklace and then swap with a fury. But that's up to you. I'm just going to be focusing on these swaps. And honestly, guys, if the offhand is annoying you, you could just like camp a defender and instead just do 2-way swaps. Switch to mage, switch to melee, switch to ranged, switch to mage, switch to melee. Just like this, right? Very nice to do two-way or three-way swaps when you're doing your first couple of raids. And even if you're bringing like a bunch of gear, I honestly would just bring like maybe just green D'hide and mystics and just use that as your swaps. That way you don't have to also swap to melee gear. Keep your inventory nice and simple, and swaps become kind of a joke. Now, for the rest of my gear, you might notice that I have an ancient staff equipped. Basically, if you're going for mage, you should bring an ancient staff, and if you're not going for mage, ancient staff will kind of be, your best bet. Again, for range, we talked about just a rune crossbow. If you have something better, that's fine. But if you're not, then you can also just bring a rune crossbow. It's going to be fine. Mine has the ornamental kit. That's why it looks a little different, by the way. Now, if mage is your main combat style, you probably want to have a powered staff along with the ancients. This is because, and we'll talk about this later, but when you're attacking every 2 ticks, you can't move and attack. So you need a powered staff, which doesn't have a delay on it. Like when you cast ancient spells, there's a little bit of a delay when you start casting them like auto cast, right? So we want to have a powered staff, and this is probably going to be a trident. However, if you want to, you could also use like a warped scepter as well. So yeah, I would just bring that. I think you can also use like a regular, but yeah, basically just bring a powered staff. It's going to be easier. Get a trident or get a warp scepter. You can use the ancient staff, but you're going to be losing a lot of damage, or you're going to have to manually cast from your spellbook, which is not really something I want to talk about in a beginner guide. Next up, bring a dragon dagger. This is going to be useful for the very, very last phase as like a spec weapon. If you're melee, you probably don't really need this, but you might want to bring it anyways because it's good. But yeah, I found a lot of value in my first couple of raids using a dragon dagger. If you have the yellow Karis, you can use this as well and bring this mainly for the special attack. Inside of the raid, this has a special attack where you sacrifice 50 prayer points to restore your entire hit points. This also cures poison, restores any drained stats. So it's actually very, very nice as like a full heal special attack. And if you're struggling with resources, but you do have the yellow Karis Partisan, this can actually be a very nice way of like preserving your resources so you don't have to spend them inside the raid, especially if you like don't have Banker's Note, which again, I'm not really focusing on Banker's Note here. But if you have Banker's Note, your inventory gets a lot easier when you can bring, the entire fridge with you along to the raid. Okay, so for potions, again, I'm assuming you don't have Banker's Note. Otherwise, this can be kind of whatever you want. But we're going to be bringing 6 Super Restores, 6 Ceradomin Brews. I think that when you're just starting off, this is like the nicest balance of everything you might need. You might not need this much Ceradomin Brews. You might need more Prayer Restores, and then you can go with like 4 and 8, I guess. But 6 and 6, just to kind of see where we're off. So we have plenty of health, plenty of prayer. I'm also going to be like intentionally stalling out some of these fights, so I might end up using more resources than I intend. For my rune pouch, regardless of what style you're going to go, you do want to bring runes along so you can cast ancient spells. The runes that I like to bring are blood runes, blood runes, death runes, soul runes, and water runes. This is so that we can cast blood barrage and ice barrage, or blood spells and ice spells, basically. If you don't have the divine rune pouch, of course you get that from Tombs of Amascut, then just, take one of these out. Let's say we take out our soul runes, and then your inventory would look something like this. 3 runes in a pouch and a soul rune. You can get a rune pouch from doing Slayer. I would probably not recommend bringing like 4 inventory slot of rune, but if you really need to, then, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? If you get the divine rune pouch though, just bring 4 in one pouch, nice and easy. Finally, bring along like an antidote. This can be pretty much any kind of anti-poison, maybe super anti-poison, maybe just regular anti-poison, maybe you have anti-venoms, anything like that. I just bring antidotes because I happen to have them. This is nice because you do get poisoned on a couple instances, so having that, it's just going to help you avoid taking damage, like unnecessary damage. And you should probably try to bring 1 potion that buffs your main combat style. So for me, this is a magic potion. Doesn't really do, magic potion doesn't really do that much, but if you're going for melee, you're probably going to want to bring like a super combat, or honestly just bring a super attack and a super strength. It's fine to use up the extra inventory slot. And if you're ranged, try to get your hands on a ranging potion because that will benefit you pretty substantially inside of the raid. Okay, and you can see that I'm still missing a couple of inventory slots here. And honestly, guys, this is just because I want to leave a couple of them open as flex options. If you need to bring like an extra Ceradomin Brew, maybe you need to bring like an extra spec weapon. There's a lot of other things that you can bring here. So I'm just keeping a couple of them open. In particular, you're going to want to have at least 1 inventory slot available, probably. You don't necessarily need to have 1 inventory slot available, but it's kind of nice to just have 1 of them available for the raid. And now this isn't necessary, but I'm also going to be bringing a halberd along. This is just if you're going with melee, there's something you can do with a halberd. So I'm just going to be bringing a halberd along. You really don't need this. If you're melee, though, you might want to bring one along for Zebak, but we'll talk about that once we get into the raid. Now, one consideration, if you do have the banker's note, is to set like unnote quantity to like 3 or something like that. And then you can use a noted cooked karambwans and noted sharks. The reason why these are good, you can basically be cooked karambwans plus any kind of food. You can basically eat together like this so that there's no delay on it. And this just makes it so that you can basically get like 40 hit points worth of food in one go. And this can be nice. It's also a lot easier to get, sharks or karambwans as opposed to Saradomin brews. But again, I want to have a nice all-around one. So if you don't have the banker's note, obviously you can't do this. Just stick to Saradomin brews. You might be able to get away with just bringing high healing food, but I probably wouldn't recommend that. I'd probably recommend just bringing brews along. You really don't need 6 if you know what you're doing. You probably only need like 2 or 3. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Okay, so we got our party made. We're going with Invocation 305. Let's get into the raid. Now in the lobby, you can see what I mean. There are 4 different paths that we can go for first. And the order there's no like hard rule on it. But personally, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going with Scabrous first, then Krondys. This is basically Kephri first, then Zebak. Then we're going to be going with the Monkey and Path of Het, which is Akkha. The reason why is because I have personally found that the Monkey Room, Baba, as well as Akkha, those are the ones that typically deal the most amount of damage, and they also drain the most amount of resources. They're also kind of the hardest to get through. So halfway through the raid, you get access to resources. Typically, this is going to be smelling salts that kind of buff your combat stats. And the extra buffed combat stats really, really help me get through these rooms. In particular, really helps you get through the Akkha room because, you need access to all the different styles. But also, it just really helps in general. Just it just helps you be a lot stronger with these 2 rooms, which are typically the kind of like the biggest pain points for me. Starting off, though, it doesn't really matter. You can go either Krondys or Scabrous first. But with the magic setup, I personally found that Scabrous is just a little bit easier. Okay, so when we start this room, there's basically 4 puzzles. By the way, you can use the Tombs of Amascut plugin, which really, really helps you kind of auto-solve a lot of these. In addition, I have a couple other plugins that I wanted to talk about. First off, we have tile indicators. This shows me my true tile, so you can see my character animation is actually a little bit off sync, but this blue tile is actually where my character actually is, where the game is registering. And this kind of helps you know and get more precise movement when you can follow what your character is, like where your character actually is, as opposed to just watching, my little animation kind of follow along. So this is tile indicators. I already talked about Tombs of Amascut. This is useful in a lot of these rooms, but in particular, it kind of auto-solves this puzzle, which is nice. In the menu entry swapper, you can use shift-click to walk here. So you can see typically if I clicked here, it would pass the barrier, right? However, if I hit shift, it's actually going to try to make me move here. So I actually won't be able to interact with this, right? Because I'm holding down shift right now, so it's forcing me to walk. Same thing applies if I dropped an item on the ground, right? Instead of, if I walked up and I clicked on it, I would pick it up. Instead, what we can do is we can shift click, and it's not going to let me pick it up. So it's a very nice, useful plugin. This helps a lot when you're doing bosses, especially any bosses that have a lot of movement, a lot of additional enemies spawned. So you can force yourself to move without accidentally clicking on one of them and starting to attack, and maybe that moves you out of position. This just gives you more precise movement when you can shift click to go exactly where you want to, and it really makes you a much better RuneScape player. Finally, I know a lot of people have been asking about this. I use a plugin called Inventory Tags to have a little outline under all of my styles, around all my gear that kind of shows the style. So my melee is marked in red, my mage is in blue, my range is in green. And this is called Inventory Tags, and I have it set to the underline so that I can get like a nice color on it. My special attacks are usually in yellow, just so I keep those kind of aside and it doesn't get lost in the mix. You can also change it to have like an outline instead, or a fill. But personally, I found that this is kind of annoying and I don't even get to see what item I have. So the underline has been my kind of go-to because it's just nice and convenient. I still get to know like what style I need. It makes my swaps easier in case I let's say I accidentally screwed up and did this, and I can be like, oh shoot, I'm missing my green weapon. I need to put on my green shield. Pretty simple. Okay, let's get into the puzzle room. So before every boss, you do have to do a little puzzle room. This is for the Kephri Puzzle. We'll go through all of them. It's very simple with the Tombs of Amascut puzzle. You can just speak to this ancient tablet, and it's going to mark which ones you need to step on. You need to step on all of them, and you can also step 2 at a time, and it will track it. It's completed. Now, this door is going to be kind of blocked, so we need to go inside. And typically you would go further, but I'm going to show you guys all the puzzles just so you know how to do them. This one just marks which ones you have to click. Again, you don't want to click here. You want to be clicking only on the ones that are marked. Nice and easy. You can see I'm getting attacked by a scarab. You can just pray range if you want to deal with him, or you can kill him too. It's no big deal. Personally, I just take the damage usually. This button is a memory game, but luckily the plugin will auto-solve it for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nice and simple. And finally, we could go ahead and go through this room, but I will show you guys this last one. I always try to skip this one, basically. I go out of my way to skip it, and this is basically like a memory game. So we have to go in order. 1, we're actually getting lucky here. This is 2, 3, okay, 4. I didn't really demonstrate it well that time, but basically the order is completely random. So let's say this was 1, 2, and then 3 was actually here. I would have had to restart and go 1, 2, 3 again. That time I just got lucky. I happened to get the exact order. And then finally here we have a little bit of a memory game. It's pretty simple. What I like to do is just reveal all of them. The plugin will auto remember them, but regardless, it's just nice to have. So I know I have light blue, dark blue, I have yellow, and I have red. Let's go explore the other side. We got light blue. Let's explore a bit. Okay, so what do we have here? We have green. Let's go get our green one, right? It's very simple. You're just doing a matching game. If you can also just remember it in your head. If you're doing this in groups, basically you have to just coordinate with your partner, and what I like to do is just go one at a time. Have one person call out like yellow, and then the other person goes and finds their yellow, and they don't click anything until they find their yellow. And next up you go red, and then the other person goes and they find their red. And it's very simple. That's how I've been doing all of my group kind of tombs. All right, we're done with the puzzle. Usually this takes about 50 seconds. This one took 2 minutes, obviously because I'm going a little slow. Let's go ahead and get into the next room. Okay, so first boss is Kephri. You can fight this with any style. We are going to be using a mage for this. However, we're going to be using a trident. This is because, again, I can't walk and cast ancient magic at the same time, which I will demonstrate very soon. I have a couple tiles here, which I'll try to explain them, but it's not that relevant. Anyways, let's go through. We start attacking Kephri, and you don't actually need to have any prayer at first. Just equip your, like, a damage prayer, maybe chug a potion, and start doing damage. You see how I'm walking? This is like, I think it's called like blowpipe walking or something. Basically, I'm getting hits every time. I mess it up that time, but basically it doesn't really matter where your first poop is. I like to start on this first one, but it can really be anywhere. And you can see, let me just get in the practice here of just moving. You just need to move 2 tiles. If you didn't have aerial assault on, this would only be every 1. It would be like a 1x1 instead of a 3x3. But I think this is worth learning. It's only a bit annoying in groups when you have 3x3. So if you're doing this with like 8 people or something like that, you may want to turn it off. Kephri will then spawn eggs. Personally, I just destroy these eggs when I'm at kind of like higher invocations. Also because I have Berserker. But if you don't destroy them, it's just going to summon these little guys instead. You can very simply bypass this by just praying ranged. That's it. When I'm at higher invocations, I like to destroy them because I one-shot the eggs anyways. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Again, we want to try to stack. The second special is these poop lines. You just want to stack them in one area of the room. So try not to be all over the place because you can box. Basically, the biggest thing is you don't want to box yourself in and get trapped. Another thing you can do when you have some of these is you can also just cast an ice barrage on them and get like free damage. See how they're kind of stacked up? This makes it really nice. I can also cast like a blood barrage here. Get some health back. Very nice. And they're dead. Go summon more eggs. Again, we could just ignore them too if we want to. No big deal. And we can go ahead and start damaging the boss. These eggs, they do explode. So just keep a little area like around them so you don't accidentally hit yourself. After the eggs, it's going to go back to the poop lines. So let's go ahead, head over back to our poop lines so we can stack them back up. And you can see I'm trying to move here. I could also be like right here too. I'm going to stack it up and make sure we move out of range. Okay, so one thing I did want to show off is like, why are ancients bad? Well, if I cast one time and then move, you see there's going to be a little bit of a delay. Whereas with the trident, I can actually get 3 hits off. 1, basically like I get 1, 2, or here. 1, 2, 3, and then we have to move. Yeah, I demonstrated that poorly. Even if I had like, with basically any kind of 2-tick, you can get 3 hits in. So let's say I move, I can do 3 hits. 1, 2, 3, and then I move. 1, 2, 3, and then I move. And that's how you want to do it with basically any 2-tick weapon. With Ancient Staff, there's a delay on it, so you can't do that. That's why it's annoying. That's why I prefer using the Trident. But whenever you move, you get 3 hits on. That time I went a little too early, so I baited it there instead. That's fine. I'm going to take a little explosion damage because I was too close to it, but that's okay. We're low on prayer, so let's basically get back up. When you first kill Kephri, it's going to summon a ranged scarab over here. And you can just go ahead and knock this off. It also does poison damage, so let's go ahead and heal that up. I'm going to go ahead and show off the Karis, just because, again, I'm taking a little bit of way more damage than I plan on. But with the Karis Partisan, I can equip this. It only costs 50 prayer, and I can use a special attack, get all the way back up. I'm going to be turning off the sound here just because these Scarab Swarms are quite annoying. Or sorry, the Agile Scarabs are doing a little bit too much noise damage. So you can see here, again, if I'm trying to move and do this, I won't be able to auto-cast my Ancient. It's not going to work. This is why we bring a Trident along. Same idea, we just want to stack up our poop. Let's say I wanted to go melee, I would do the same thing. Just do this, attack. It would just be getting 3 hits in. I'm getting basically 1.5 in because I have 4 tick instead of 2 tick, right? So if you had every 2 tick, you would attack 3 times. Same thing with range. You could do this with whatever you'd like. So let's just go ahead and get into that pattern for the rest of the fight. Basically, once we move, we're going to move 3 times. 1, 2, 3. We're going to move, attack 3 times. Nice and simple. When we get the little cloud around ourselves, we can go ahead and get these guys going. Otherwise, we're going right back to dealing damage. Move, attack 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Get the little dust around our head. We can go ahead and bait the poop. Next up, we're going to get egg spawn, but we're going to push it below. So in this one, there's a melee one, and there's also this mage one, the Arcane Scarab. Your focus needs to be the Arcane Scarab. So just try to get as much damage done to it as possible, and instead just pray melee until it dies. It will teleport at some point if you don't kill it in time, but with Berserker and my Trident damage, I do quite a bit of damage. After it's dead, you can go ahead and focus on the melee. If you're good and you're in groups, you can also deal with these Scarab Swarms instead. Personally, I just don't worry. I don't really worry about them. I just use this as like an opportunity to reset instead. We're out of prayer here. Let's just drink back up. All right, and we're back on the boss. Remember, once you dodge, move 3 times. Anytime you're in like these diagonal quadrants, you're going to get like a diagonal hit instead, which I'll showcase on the next one. But otherwise, if you've just been doing a good job in stacking it up, it really doesn't matter. Just make sure you're moving in the right direction afterwards. Don't worry about boss damage. Just get out of the way first so you don't get like trapped. If I got trapped here, I would be in a lot of bad situation. So instead, we're going right back into this pattern. You can see here, by kind of moving, I'm going to get a diagonal instead. And this is nice because I can kind of use the diagonal to like basically chew up as much space as possible and be really, really like conservative with my space. Just be careful not to like accidentally get trapped in the back corner. Like, so for example, if I was standing like right here, I could get a diagonal and get trapped in this back corner, which you never really want to do. So, you know, just give yourself plenty of space. You know, you will mess it up. It happens, but it's totally fine. And just make sure you move to get out of it, right? We could have gone we could have gone stuck in this little like Tetris block here, and we don't want that. We want to move out. Once we bring Kephri down to 0% again, we're going to go ahead and enter the final phase. Kephri is going to push us, so let's give ourselves lots of space so we don't accidentally get trapped. This is just a regular special, right? Let's go ahead and give ourselves lots of space so we don't get trapped, and go ahead and do the damage. All right, nice. We got plenty of space here, right? Plenty of space. Could have been way more efficient with it, but now, well, final phase, very simple. It's the exact same thing. No eggs. Kephri is just going to use the poop attack a little bit more commonly. So as long as we're staying kind of stacked up here, we're not getting trapped, we can kind of automatically make sure that we're totally fine here. And again, we're praying range just to deal with these agile scarabs. You can go, if you wanted to, like shoot, like, let's say I wanted to just kill them off. I could shoot like an ice barrage over to them. Maybe you got chins or something like that. Very, very simple for Kephri, right? Let's toss this one too. Hit it. And now we're not even taking any damage. We can actually take off our range, basically. Basically completely free here. They might summon eggs, but that's fine. I think what ends up happening is when there's so many eggs, they just stop summoning more eggs. So that's why, personally, prayer range is fine. And we kill Kephri. First boss is completed. Congrats. After every boss, you're going to go ahead and proceed to get back to the starting area. Next up, we're going to be going to Krondus. Again, you can do this in whatever order you like, but personally I like this order the best. You can also see that I got a mysterious rumbling from the path of Krondus and a mysterious rumbling from the path of Amascut. This is what Walk the Path does. It levels them up. So luckily, the nice thing is that it only really matters when you get to level 2 and level 4. So for now, they're level 1. They just have a slightly higher stats. This is why I like doing Kephri first, because as you can see, it kind of took forever to do, whereas Zebak should be pretty easy. So we can go ahead and do Krondus next in the Zebak room. He's just going to be a little bit tankier, so we're just going to have to chew through a little bit more crocodile leather. Okay, in this room, this is the crocodile room, like the puzzle room. It's very, very, very simple. Just make sure you have one inventory space ready to go. If you're doing this in groups, you probably want one person to go left, one person to go right. But the idea is with 2 full palms or 2 full water containers, you can get this done right away. So I'm just going to show you the fast strat. We're going to pass through this, spam click this water container, right? Click on it. Wait a second to pick it up. Make sure it's in your inventory. You're going to go to this tile. We want to dodge these little spikes, right? We want to dodge these spikes, so you want to follow my exact tiles here. As soon as this lights up and you're good to go, you're going to run back. And this time, you want to run back. Just make sure you dodge the green stuff on the way back. But you can basically use the same tiles or one over. That time I screwed up, but that's okay, right? We got hit by water. We're going to just showcase it one more time. Go to the starting tile, start running, right? Go back to the starting tile, keep running. And if we do this correctly, we should never ever get hit. If a crocodile spawns, that's fine. You can go ahead and kill it if you'd like. Or if you're doing this effectively, you really shouldn't need to go more than 1 or 2 times. Let's say you did mess up and you need to go to another one instead. That's fine. We could basically do the same idea. I have a starting tile on this side as well. And again, we start right next to it. We're going to have to move 1 away because we want to dodge this one, right? But then we could just go ahead and click. And we should be fine because the green is on the, it's like on the wrong row. Same idea, we're going to start 1 away from the starting tile because the green was there. And then we can just run right through it. Super easy. We get a nice 100. Crocodile room is complete. Let's go do the boss. Okay, so this is one instance where I do like to use Ancient Magics just because you don't have to do that much movement with Zebak, to be honest. So Ancients work pretty well here. In addition, this room is the most interesting for melee, so I'll be talking a little bit about how to do this with melee. And obviously I don't have the melee relics, so bear with me through the explanation. But yeah, you can probably do this with Ancient Magics if you'd like, because it does a little bit more damage than the Trident. However, when you do have to do any kind of movement, the Trident is pretty good here. So what I would go ahead and do is put on, Mystic Might, or Piety, or Rigor, whatever you have. Turn it on, and we start fighting. Now, the core of Zebak, very simply, has 2 attacks. A rock, which is prey ranged. And so every time you see the rock, prey ranged, and you wait for the 0 to hit you. Okay, so here's like the first special attack. Basically, it's going to summon these jugs, and you need to deal with the jugs by pushing them into the rocks. Typically, the first one is very easy. You can find it over here. Once you've gotten over there, you can go ahead, sit behind the rocks, and he's going to do a roar. And in the meantime, you could be doing damage. We'll pull out the Trident here just because for movement's sake, but you could use Ancient Staffs because again, you see how I don't have to move that much. This is the magic attack, this little orb. So just switch to mage. Very simple, right? If you see the rock, switch back to ranged. Just make sure you're not doing it too early so you've actually gotten the hit in. Does that make sense? So if you see the rock and you haven't gotten hit by it quite yet, you want to wait just a little bit. Okay, so Zebak has 2 special attacks that it alternates in. This is why I like the Trident again, because you can kind of get hits in. The second one is going to be the tidal waves, and it's random which order it is, but it's always going to alternate between one of these. And this is very simple. You just need to find kind of your space between the tidal waves, and you want to be very, very careful with making sure you're not stepping on any poison, right? So get here. Just be careful. It's a little bit bigger than it looks. You might get hit by it preemptively, and it's going to push you into the water. You don't want that. And you might be wondering about what my tiles are. This first row is blowpipe. This is the range of blowpipe. This right here is the range of the crossbow. So if I was standing here, I would be too far. I would get pulled in, right? You want to be really careful. We're going to switch to range because we have the rock. This one right here, this kind of back row, this back row is for twisted bow and for shadow if you have access to those. However, this one right here is for the trident, so I can go all the way back here. I like these tiles just to know how far away I can stand. And sometimes, let's say I'm at the tidal wave and I'm standing right here and I'm trying to do damage. I don't want to accidentally get pulled into a tidal wave. You also can summon blood stuff. This is one of those invocations. It's really easy to do these blood clots. You just kind of run in like a semicircle. Honestly, you just kind of run in a semicircle. It doesn't even have to be super precise, but you kind of just like juke them around like that. So very simple. We're going to get the next special here of jugs. The first jugs I always like to do on this left side. For some reason, it just happens to be easier. Second set, for some reason, is always really easy in the middle. I don't know why that is, but yeah, that just happens to be the case. We'll do the second set, and then I'll explain some stuff about melee. Or we could just go ahead and melee now. Now, melee is a little bit interesting, because when we melee Zebak, if we stand too close, he can chomp us, and it does a lot of damage, and you start to bleed, which we don't want to bleed. So I'm going to heal back up with the Karis real quick. Oop, that's not the Karis. I'm going to heal back up with the Karis just to stay nice and healthy. And so what we want to do instead is we want to actually be fighting we want to melee from distance. So that's why we bring the halberd. We can actually do something like this instead. So this is like a very nice, simple solution. Don't stand right here or else you're going to get meleeed, right? Stand one tile away. That's why I have my melee tiles marked. You just want to stand one tile away and you can basically halberd him to death. This is probably going to be your most efficient. I just checked my prayer there just to make sure I'm not dying. So yeah, if you need to do this, you can go ahead and do that. And if he starts doing stuff like the blood, just go run in a semicircle. You don't need to optimize your damage. Run in a little semicircle. Get back to that tile. Remember, don't be 2 tiles away, because if you do this, you're going to get pulled into his melee range, right? So stand right here, 1 tile away, and you're good to go. I also heard that apparently if you have a ranger and a mage stand right behind you, that also works. Okay, so we got jugs. We're standing right here, and we can pretty easily find that if we push this diagonally, it's going to crash into those. We could have also maybe hit that one instead. And again, you don't have, this isn't like a perfect magic tile. You stand here and it auto solves. This is just kind of like a general area of where you want to stand. Check our prayer, make sure we're doing fine. Turn our prayer back on. I'm going to chew a little bit. Again, obviously, this is taking a little bit longer, but we should be fine on prayer, basically. And again, I'm just looking for these, switching to them whenever. Now, if you wanted to use your like main style, because maybe you didn't want to use a halberd, maybe you don't even have access to a halberd, it requires Ascarnia, so maybe not everybody has access to it, right? Okay, well, here's what also we can do. We can do like a flinch attack, basically. You see him attack, and we're going to move forward and attack. I'm going to turn sounds on here, because it actually helps. What you can do, when you hear the grumble, you can like go like this. And it's a little hard for me to show, because you would be doing this like at twice speed, right? You would be attacking every time. But you would do something like this. And you would be getting the hit there. But this is just to ensure that you don't accidentally walk into him. And I'm listening for the grumble to basically start again. You could probably, I think there might be some slightly like better ways of doing this, but it's just what I would do. Switches to the rock, we switch to the rock. We're going to go in a little circle here. But this is how you can do melee Zebak. It's not perfect, it's not great, but you can still use your main weapon. You can also start from 1 tile away too, that's fine too. But I like to do the 2 tile. Obviously I'm not getting a hit in between each one, but yeah. Just like this, you would do something like this to get it done. That time I was a little slow, but as soon as you hear the grumble, you can just go ahead and do that. And that's why true tile helps a lot, because you can get more accurate. As soon as you see yourself move up, or as soon as you see your tile move up, you can basically move back. And again, I would be getting that hit every time, but that's fine. You can also just use trident, you can use your range. It all works here, right? It all works. Anything you'd like to do. Okay, you guys get the picture. Let's go ahead and finish off this crocodile. We might get a third set of special attack, but that's fine too. That time we missed it, so I took a little bit of damage. Just make sure you're getting your prayers right. You should always be thinking about prayers. That should just be something on your mind at all times. I have some movement here, so I like to have my trident out because these guys are going to be coming. But when I'm good to go, when there's not really anything going on, I can go ahead and just take this out and start just doing damage with my ice spells. Going back to movement, so let's take our trident back out. And this time we're just looking for our little windows of opportunity, switching to our rocks in between. This is no longer safe, so as soon as this passes us, let's move one tile back. This is no longer safe, let's go back here. Simple. When Zebak gets to about 25%, he kind of like does a little grumble, and now you're just getting to enrage phase. He's going to attack a little bit faster, and then no special attacks. You see it's a little faster now, so we just got to wait till we get hit, and then react to the next one. Again, I'm just standing still here, so let's go ahead and do this. I should have Mystic Might here. I can pull my Ancients and just kind of blast damage. Check your prayer, make sure you're not losing any prayer, and just react to the prayers. Very, very simple. The only attack he can do now outside of this is he can summon the Bloods, the little Blood Balls. The Blood Balls are very easy. You just need to run in a semicircle again. It's okay to just not do damage during that phase either. No problem. So you summon this, we can pull out our trident to do damage while we move, and we're just going to run in a little semicircle. I'm missing prayers there because I'm not paying attention. Let's switch back. And we're back. Back to mage. Let's finish him off. Just react to the prayer. Really, this is all about just reacting to the right prayer. Careful with your prayer. You want to make sure you never go low. Just take it home. I personally like sounds for a lot of this because it's easier to react, in my opinion, when you have sounds on. Alright, Crocodile is dead. Let's proceed. Okay, so like I mentioned, halfway through you get a bit of an intermission where you get to choose some resources. This is also why I like to not limit how much resources you're getting, because the more the better. So you got life, chaos, and power. The most important thing here is going to be your smelling salts. To be honest, this is the biggest benefit you can get from this because it's going to buff your damage. Really, and that's just going to speed things up significantly. So personally, I almost always go power. I think power is simply the best option. That being said, if you are struggling with supplies, let's say you don't have Banker's Note, let's say you don't have a lot of Ceridome and Brews, you may want to go with Chaos and Life. Just to explain what these are, this Nectar is basically a Ceridome Brew. The Tears of Elidinus is basically a prayer potion. Ambrosia is a full heal, full prayer, and it's 2 doses of that. It is very, very powerful. It's like a full restore, basically. It's insane. Click it once, you get all your health back, and you get 2 doses of it per potion. So this one's very, very strong to use. The Silk Dressing restores your health over time, and I think it also restores a bit of prayer potion, but basically this is health over time. You just start restoring. It's almost a full heal. And also the Crystal Scarab restores your prayer over time, so this is also nice. Now personally, I think that if you're good on supplies, or if you have like Banker's Note, you just basically go power every time. The smelling salts last for about 8 minutes, so with 2 doses each, you should have enough for 1 for the monkey room, 1 for the Akkha room, and then you take 2 for wardens just in case, because sometimes wardens can go a little bit long. If you are struggling with supplies, chaos is a good balance here because you're still getting 1 smelling salt, and we'll talk about how to use that, but you're still getting these supplies, right? And then of course, if you absolutely need it, if you're just completely getting freaking owned, you might want to go back to the drawing board on that one, but sometimes you just got to go life, and hey, it is what it is, right? If you're playing with 2 people, like let's say you're doing a duo, it might be beneficial to have 1 person go power and 1 person to go life. That way you get a bunch of supplies and you get the smelling salts, which is good. Also, I didn't talk about liquid adrenaline yet. This is actually very nice for the very last phase. That's why I also like power. Basically, this cuts the required special attack in half. So with Dragon Dagger, this means you can get 8 specs off. It's quite powerful for the last phase. So for this video, we're going to be going with power. You could also go chaos here as well if you need the supplies. But I think I'm going to manage with these. So we're going to go power. Now, actually using your supplies is kind of its own, kind of a mission in itself and requires a little bit of inventory management. Now, when you open the supplies, you'll see this. I personally like to just take out one smelling salt and I keep my adrenaline for now just because I don't want to clog up my inventory. And what I like to do is my shift click is actually set to resupply. So I set my shift click to resupply. Some people like to just make that their shift click as well. You can also do withdraw 1, which will basically do whatever's next. So let's say I wanted to take out my adrenaline. I could do withdraw 1 and it will pull out whatever's next in the list. I can also put things back in here. If I pull out everything from this, I get rid of my supply box, which is not good. So you don't want to get rid of your supply box or else managing your inventory gets kind of hectic. So yeah. In addition, if you have too many supplies, you can also go to this deposit potion. Let's say I have too many Ceradomin brews right now. I can deposit just one of them, maybe if I wanted to, or I could deposit all of them, whatever I wanted to, basically just to clear up a bit of inventory space as well. So like I don't need the magic potion anymore. We can get rid of that as well. Although honestly, I'll probably just drop that at that point. You know what I mean? We don't need the rune halberd either. Let's get rid of this rune halberd. Screw this guy. Oh, I can't deposit that. Never mind. Okay, so we're just going to have our one smelling salt and we're going to head over to the monkey room. Okay, so monkey room is pretty tricky to get the hang of. If you have the berserker relic though, this is kind of a complete joke. I'm going to try to show you guys how to do it without the berserker relic though, because yeah, it's it's definitely, well, it's hard because with the berserker relic, you basically get a guaranteed max hit, which means you one-shot just about everything here. That's quite good. It's quite powerful. So yeah, just keep that in mind. At the start of this, you're going to want to grab potions and a hammer. Typically, I like to get it from the back 2 boxes because there's a little bit of time. But if you're just starting off, you want a little bit of time here, just grab this. Make sure that you have, your potions somewhere that's not going to block your inventory. So you see, like if I had my potions here, it's going to be kind of annoying when I swap my stuff, right? So let's just go ahead and move it like here instead. Let's just manage our inventory. Hammer can go wherever it wants to. We don't care, right? Well, let's put this like right here instead. This should be fine, right? We have our potion here. Potions right here. We still have our supplies. And for this room, the easiest way to do it is honestly just do one-way swaps. With the void, you could do two-way swap like this. But if you're just starting off, just switch your weapon. Mage, melee, range. That's the easiest way to do this. Now let's quickly explain the potions as well as the hammer. Basically, there's 3 things that can happen. 2 things in solo, 3 things in groups. But every now and then you're going to have to like fix something. This might either be these vents. There's 4 vents that you guys can see. 4 vents, right? So you can you're either going to be asked to solve the vents by pouring a potion. You're just going to pour a potion while standing over it. You might be asked to repair the pillars. This is very simple. You just click on it with a hammer in your inventory, and you just have to do 1 pillar, and that's it. If you're in groups, it's going to somebody's going to be poisoned, or I think everybody's going to get poisoned. And the easiest way to do this is just have everybody stack up on 1 tile. So for my groups, I would just have this 1 tile in front of the statue, and when everybody is poisoned, you just stand right here. And you drop a potion on the floor, or you pour a potion on the floor, and it's going to cure everybody. Super nice and easy. Now, this is called DD. So typically, when groups, you're going to be calling P for pillar, V for vent, or DD, which is like death dot or something like that. So yeah, basically, DD means you stand all in 1 spot and you pour a potion. However, in groups, there is one thing, and that's that only 1 person can actually see what action you have to do. So it's going to rotate between who actually gets to see what needs to be done. And that person is going to be responsible for calling it for the entire group. Okay, let's actually go ahead and get into the up mechan waves. And we're going to start off with mage here. So let's just take just our mage weapon here. You can find like a nice mix between your gear. But again, Void Knight kind of carries. You don't even need to switch your helmet. Now, we're going to start off with brawlers, right? Brawlers are melee guys. So we want to attack them with mage, right? You're not going to get a guaranteed max hit if you don't have Berserker, but honestly, your weapon might be so accurate that you don't even need to swap. It's hard for me to say for sure just because Berserker really carries here. I see I have vents. I'm going to pour a potion while I'm on it. Next round, you're going to have 1 thrower and 1 mage. Let's pray against the thrower and go kill the mage. We kill mage by using range, I believe. We're going to go ahead and this. Now we're going to go kill the thrower with melee. Again, if you have really high accuracy or if you have Berserker, you might be okay to just kill them with whatever. Next round, we have a melee minion, right? So we're going to kill those. Most importantly, we want to focus on these shamans. These guys do magic damage, and they also summon adds. So we're going to want to do that. These guys are volatile baboons. We want to be very careful and not get hit by them. You guys saw the pillar? We got to go repair the pillar. We got a little bit of time there. I like to use my, the quick, fast trident to clean things up. Otherwise, you can see I'm taking quite a bit of damage here. So let's pray melee and clear up the throwers instead. Right, we're taking damage from the majors, so basically whatever you're praying against, that's what you want to save for last. And now we can go clear these up. I usually like to save these guys for last, these cursed baboons, but you can kill them with anything. And basically, they just drop poison on the ground. See, we have vents. Let's pour a potion, deal with the vent. We got a baboon coming, right? You can use this guy to explode other stuff. But for now, we're just going to focus on this. Next round has throwers. So we're back to throw, and we're going to kill him with melee. Again, if you have high accuracy, just use that. Or if you have Berserker, use that. The order of the rounds is very consistent, and you'll kind of figure it out. This one is a mage round. You see, I'm going to be focusing on the shaman. What I can actually do is I can get this volatile monkey instead. I can bring him over and instead just focus on these guys. And with good movement, I can kind of do this. Again, I like to use shift click in this room a lot to get nice movement to not accidentally walk into stuff. I'm cleaning up these guys. I should be using range on the shamans most likely, but it's probably fine. Here again, we have a volatile baboon. Let's see if we can explode stuff. We managed to get one. We can go ahead, pour the neutralizing potion, and kill this guy because he's a melee. We should be praying melee. Sorry, this room's a bit hectic for me to go through. I'm running a little bit low on health, so let's bring out the Chaos Partisan, use the special attack, get right back to full. We got a lot of melees attacking us because we let this guy summon too many. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's clear up the thrower. And now the only thing attacking us is melee. We got events. Let's do that. And now from here, let's just pull out our fastest weapon possible. Maybe we can even just blood barrage these guys. Let's get a nice blood barrage on these thralls to clean them up. Now we got a brawler. We attack it with magic. We can start cleaning up these guys. Again, nice little shift click here. So I'm being very careful not to accidentally step on anything. And now I'm just going to safely click these guys and clean them up. Clean them up. We got volatile baboons, so let's just be very careful. Shift click over here to be careful with our movement. And we have pillars to take care of. Let's go do pillars. Click once, get the hammer. Exploding monkeys are here. Let's watch out for them. Switching to range to fight this shaman. You see, we're getting hit by a lot of these guys, right? We're getting hit by a lot of them. So let's use a blood barrage spell. We could also use we could also use chins or something like that. But a nice little blood barrage, very easy. Again, we're going to go ahead and repair. And finally, last priority are these poison monkeys. Clean them up. That's the monkey room. It does take a little bit of time and practice, and it's a little bit random after like the first couple of waves. But with enough practice, and especially if you have like Berserker or anything like that, this room gets significantly easier. Also, I totally forgot this. I should have done this, but you can also crush a Smelling Salts. I would recommend crushing a Smelling Salts at the beginning just so you have a little bit more accuracy. And with the bonus of your Smelling Salts, I'm pretty sure you can just camp your main style and not even have to worry about like the mechanics, if that makes sense. You could just kill everything with your main style and just watch out for the exploding monkeys. For those exploding monkeys, I have them highlighted so that it's easier to actually tell, and I have the outline on them. That's by using better NPC highlight. It really, really helps to be able to detect them so you don't actually accidentally get hit by one, or you forget about one while you're running around. Okay, monkey room is next. Basically, want to do this with whatever your best combat style is right now, and typically my inventory gets a little messed up when I'm in this room, so let's just go ahead and kind of organize things. Take a quick second. We took our Smelling Salts, so look at this. Now we have 125 magic. Trident absolutely dominates here. I mean, our stats are insane now. This is why Baba gets a lot easier once we actually have this. Don't worry too much about my tiles here. They're a little bit all over the place, except for this one row right here with blues. This is kind of like, we'll talk about this a little bit. Otherwise, we can go ahead and get into the fight. Baba is very easy. You can attack it with whatever style you like. Mage is probably the worst, but whatever you want to do, just use your your dominant combat style. We're going to turn on our prayer, and we're basically using Protect from Melee this entire time. Also, make sure you have your range set up, like, good to go. You just need, like, a swap like this, for example. You don't need to swap your shield or anything like that, but it's kind of up to you. We're praying melee. Let's go ahead and start attacking Baba. Now, remember what I said about Mind the Gap? There's going to be a gap here. We want to be really, really careful because Baba's going to toss us down at 66 and 33%. So we want to be very careful to avoid the middle. Every time a rock comes down, you want to stand next to the rock because Baba's going to shoot a rock at us every now and then. That's going to do damage. And as long as we're standing next to the rock, we're fine. It's not going to deal too much. Let's move because we got a rock dropping on our head. Baboons get spawned, right? So let's go ahead and kill these guys off real quick. And again, we see a new rock spawned. Get over to it. Personally, I like to stand at the corner of these because it's just a little bit easier. But yeah, again, we're going to keep going. You guys see there's a shockwave under my feet, so let's go ahead and move. Let's get over to a new one. Again, I like to stand at a corner, and I'll explain why in a bit. I'll see if I can get Baba to attack me so I can explain this. Otherwise, you just get over to one of these rocks, start doing damage. Yep. Let the rock hit us, and we're good. We can just keep doing damage. Got a shockwave under our feet. You can typically, Baba kind of freezes, and that's when you know you have a shockwave coming. This corner also works like this, like diagonal. That also works for Baba as well. We're taking a little bit of damage here because Baba does do a crazy amount of damage. So feel free to take your brews and eat up. Okay, let's start pumping damage. See, I got a shockwave under my feet. Let's run a bit. And again, first priority, always get over there. Keep your percentage in check because you never want to be in the middle when you get to 66 and 33%. We got some ads spawning. You can actually, sometimes the rocks will just kill them anyways. Also, you can also, like, let's say you're really taking a lot of damage on this, you could just switch to Blood Barrage too and use that too. For mage, just might help. Right? We get a little bit of health back. Let's heal up a bit. Get our prayer back. And now I'm going to be, from now I'm going to actually be focusing on the fight. Let's get over to where we're safe. And start doing damage. So look, we got 66%. The whole thing freezes. It's going to push us down. So we want to be somewhere safe. Now you want to switch to your ranged. And start attacking these. Basically, the light blue is how you get through. If you have Berserker, you could do this wherever you want to. And you could also do it with whatever style you want. But if you just have ranged, or if you don't have Berserker, you're probably going to want to do light blue. If you're quick, you can also try to run past it. And that helps a lot too. One thing that's nice is when you're at the top, only melee will wake up Baba. So if we're doing this at the top, we can actually get a lot of free hits in, and Baba will just kind of chill until she kind of wakes up on her own. Let's continue the fight, and I'll show you guys with Berserker how you can actually skip this part. We're going to go ahead and use our Sarah Brews to eat. This is really where you're going to be using the most amount of supplies, because Baba is a very angry monkey. So use your brews, use your restores. You'll be just fine. Sometimes when you get the shockwave attack on the rock, you're going to have to like run kind of like around the perimeter of the rock. So that's why I like to stand at the corner, because if I got the shockwave, I could like run over here and basically dodge both mechanics. Again, I'm going to try... Yeah, you see I'm just using the perimeter. I'm running around the perimeter of the rock basically to dodge the shockwave while also not going too far away in case the rock hits me. Rock is coming for me. That's okay. I'm taking a lot of health here, so let's actually use our Karis. Get back up to health. You could also just be using brews there. Again, it's a little hard for me just because I'm kind of intentionally taking a lot longer in this than I would otherwise. I also have way more brews than I need. I'd probably need way more restores in the future. We're right at 33%, so we can actually just go ahead and risk it here. Remember, stay out of the middle because we don't want to get pushed down for Mind the Gap. If it is scary, let's say you're right at 33.5, but you don't want to risk it. That's why I have these tiles marked to know where it's safe. So if I'm right here, I'll actually be fine. I can go ahead, I'll get marked down this bowling alley, and I'm not going to get knocked into the ground. Now, let's say I have Berserker. What you can actually do is equip like a sword or something like this. And you should actually be able to make it through. You get your max hit like this. I like to use my sword because it auto times, and I can hit this, do whatever I want, and go right through. And you don't need to use the light blue one if you have Berserker. Alright, mage back on. And let's get going. I'll use my last restore here. Again, I'm kind of running a little low on restores, but that's okay. It's just for practice sake. Put melee back on. Always make sure you have melee on. Baba does insane melee damage. Got my shockwave. Let's move. See, I'm right here at a rock. I can stand right around it. You see, I'm going to run around the perimeter of the rock, just like this. Dodge the shockwave and dodge the rock attack. So just get comfortable with like what the tile of this rock is. Let's go over here again, be at the perimeter. Also, if you run under Baba, sometimes she'll do like a shockwave attack, so just be careful not to run through Baba. Got monkeys spawning. We can go ahead and just take care of these monkeys so that they leave us alone. Yeah, let's get rid of these monkeys real quick. One thing that's nice about having the smelling salts is it actually does restore your stats too. So let's just heal up a little bit. That time I ran into a banana, so I get stunned just a bit, but it's totally fine. And Bob is dead. Easy. Okay. I'm running a little bit low on supplies here, which is why I would really recommend, you know, make sure if you have Banker's Note, it's a lot easier. One thing I may have to do is use Cheat Death to kind of get my prayer back up. And this is just because, obviously, I'm just showcasing how to do the fight, so, you know, it's taking a little bit longer for me. Okay, let's go ahead and enter the Path of Het. We don't have any prayer left, but that's okay. We can do it without prayer. No, just kidding. You do need prayer, so you probably need like 2 restores at least. Okay, so in here, you always want to make sure you have a pickaxe. You can actually put that in before you enter. There's a little cavity that you can put your pickaxe in. Now, I would personally just take the best one you have, a rune pickaxe, or you can get a dragon pickaxe. And a dragon pickaxe with 85 mining makes this a lot faster. However, I'm also using an infernal, or my like trailblazer pickaxe that I got from my relic. And what I can actually do is I can put my trailblazer I can put my trailblazer pickaxe and then reclaim it from the sage. So I actually have 1 in the Tombs of Amascut raid and then 1 to use everywhere else. Okay, let's go ahead and do this puzzle. It's actually pretty simple. It's just a little mirror game. So the Tombs of Amascut plugin does auto solve it if you like, but you know, you're welcome to do it on your own. You can see here, I need to basically create a path from this light to actually hit this one. So we're going to set up a mirror here and just make sure it's pointed in the right direction to satisfy the requirements, because we want it to bounce off and then hit this statue over here. There's 3 mirrors. Usually there's one you can pick up here, 1 here, and 1 over there. Also, there's these black orbs of darkness that do a little bit of damage if they hit you. It's not that bad, but just keep an eye out for them. So we got that one solved. Now we just got to do 1 more, right? Let's do this one. You see, we're about to get hit here, so you just want to be really careful. Okay, and now here's the trick. Here's, in order to do like the fast cycle for Akkha, you want to be standing at like basically one of these tiles that I have like marked here. These like, this is like row basically. You could also be standing 1 back. It's not the end of the world. And the walls kind of mess it up. So I want to be able to get there as fast as possible. So what I'm going to actually go ahead and do is have it set up. You see, this is the right way because I want to bounce, right? And I'm actually going to push it as soon as this light comes off. And then I'm going to run over to this tile. And as soon as it turns green, I'm going to wait. It turns green. I click on this and I get 1 little faster hit. And that's a little trick. That's like the 1 cycle. And from here, you just hands off the keyboard. Let yourself do the mining. If you get hit by an orb, it's probably okay. If your mining level really, really sucks, or if you have like a very, very bad pickaxe, you know, keep that in mind. It might take you 2 attempts, but that's how you get a 1 cycle. I think with 85 and a dragon pickaxe, it's doable. I was sometimes getting it at 99 with a rune pickaxe, though. And also deposit your pickaxe before you go. We obviously don't want to keep it. All right. So again, for this next one, it's a little tricky for me to demonstrate because I don't really have that much prayer left over. So what I'm going to basically be doing is I might have to use my cheat death to get like full prayer again, and I'll be showing that. But you know, obviously, this isn't to tell you to use cheat death to like cheat through it. It's just that I have essentially infinite prayer for this fight. Okay, so we start off with Akkha. Akkha has 3 phases. He's got like a melee phase, a range phase, or basically for you, I like to think about it as what are you doing? First you got mage, then melee, then range. And you can see here right now he's immune to everything but mage. So we're going to be starting off with this setup, magic damage and praying melee. Then when he switches, it's going to be ranged next, then magic next, and then goes back. Melee, then ranged, then magic. So it's going to look something like this. Pray melee while you have magic attack. Then you're going to pray range while you have like piety or some kind of attack. You could maybe have like ultimate strength on, something like that, right? Maybe you have something like this on. And then when you do pray mage, you're going to be using range attacks, right? That's the order. Okay. The very first one is the melee phase, right? So let's make sure we have our melee set up. Again, we're not using ancient staff. We're just using our trident. Take a look at your inventory. Make sure it's all in check. Go ahead and use 1 more smelling salt. Remember, we have a whole nother one left to go. Let's use 1 smelling salt. Now, we want to be praying melee, but because it's mage, we can actually do something kind of tricky here, and we can actually kite him around the room, just like this. Don't worry about my tiles here. They're for something else, which I'll talk about. Like, we can actually do something like this if we want to, just to start off the fight. And every 20%, he's going to do, he's going to summon an ad. But for now, I just want to focus on the special attacks. So there's 2 special attacks. I'll see if I can show them. You can do something like this, just to start it off. And if you really, really want to get into the swing of things, you can also do the butterfly strat. I'm not really going to go over this. We can kind of get into a cycle here. Oop, I messed it up here, but we click 1, 2. Okay, so we got him to 80%. Now we want to kill this ad. Use your main style. Just whatever your main style is, use it to kill the shadow. Sometimes it can get a little trapped, and that's a little bit annoying. But it's good. You can see he did a special attack, so we're going to swap to range. And now we have to do the Simon Says minigame. It's going to be fast. Now, one thing I forgot to talk about, and this is actually important. Now we're playing range, right? We're just killing this shadow. One thing I forgot to talk about. You always want to make sure you're checking the level. Is it level 0, level 1, or level 2? If it's level 0 or level 1, the memory game is going to be 4 memories. If it's level 2 or higher, it's going to be 5 memories. If it's level 4 or higher, it's going to be 6 memories. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're doing the right one. This is probably going to trip you up a couple times. You just have to always keep your eyes on it. If you're really struggling with it, you can switch. You can see he did another special attack, and he swapped. This time we're going black. Every time we move, we're going to summon orbs behind us. The trick with this one is you just always move 2 tiles at a time, or just stop moving. You don't have to move that much. You know what I mean? Now we're playing mage to deal with this one. And we don't have to do anything. We just have to sit in this quadrant until 60%. These guys will fill up their little things. Okay, he did another special attack, so we're going to go back to melee. And now we're going to go do Simon Says. Remember, 5 times. And see, it's a little bit faster. If we had Feeling Special off, it would be a lot slower. But yeah, just keep that in mind. All right, we're praying. We could just go ahead and do our magic attack now and get him to 60%. We'll kind of try to do the fight a little bit more regular now. Let's go ahead and kill this shadow. I'm taking a little bit of damage here, so let's go ahead and heal back up. You see he throws a spear in the ground. We're going to switch to the range now. And now we actually want to be getting our melee setup out. So let's go ahead and take out our dragon scimitar and start going to work. We can be praying piety just to get a little bit more here. And also, if your off styles are bad, you can also just use it as like a time to just chill. Like maybe I'm not doing any damage here anyways. Maybe this is a time for me to look through my inventory, start seeing what I have. You see he threw a spear in the ground. That means we get a special. 3, 4, 5. Easy. Now we're playing magic. We're going to use our range. And let's get our ranged up and start doing a little bit of damage. Again, I do very, very little damage with my ranged. So I usually like to use my ranged phase as just an opportunity to chill and re-examine where my inventory's at. Maybe I got something lost. You know, maybe I accidentally have this on instead. You know, I just take this time to just chill, figure out where things are, get everything else in check, you know? Okay, he does this. Now we're going back to melee, and we can go back to mage. You always want to swap your prayer first, and then swap your gear. And we're back to doing crazy damage, right? Let's go ahead and kill the shadow with whatever we have. You see, you want to be careful because we're summoning orbs right now. Every time he swaps, every time he does a special, basically, or every time he swaps, he's also going to do a swap as well. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go pray ranged, and we start doing this minigame. Remember, it's 5. Because we have level 2, so it's 5. Okay. Now, we're praying range. This time we're going to go melee instead. So we swap to our melee setup. This is why Void is really, really nice and convenient. Okay, I'm running a little bit low on prayer here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tank the hit to just revive back to full, basically. Again, you can't really do this, but this is just, I'm using Cheat Death to get all my health back so I can demonstrate things. Typically, you're not going to be sitting at bosses for minutes on end. He does the spear in the ground. We're going to pray melee. And this time we have the black orbs. Remember, it alternates. So now we're praying melee, and we want ranged attack, right? Let's get our range setup up. Start doing some damage. And you can take this time to check your inventory. Is anything wrong? Is anything missing? No, I think we're fine. We're good to go. In addition, if you're doing this in groups, he also will alternate between a third special attack. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And the third special attack is you explode in like an X or like a plus. So if that happens, just group up a bit. Or stay away from each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, now we have to swap, go back on the cycle, so we're back to melee, right? We're back to melee, which is a magic one. And you'll just get used to this over time. It takes a little bit of time just to figure out like the order. Again, below 20%, so we're going to go to the next quadrant, and we're going to start hitting this guy instead of the shadow. Remember, just do it with your main style. You can fight him with whatever you want. Just do it with your main style. Okay, he's spear on the ground, so we switch to the next one. We're just going to go 1 to the left. And this one correlates with piety. So let's get our melee setup up. You see, as long as I pray range first, I can honestly kind of chill here, you know? I don't have to worry too much about things because I'm just kind of chilling. All right. We're almost through. Let's just keep doing this kind of how we should be doing it. I'm not going to waste too much more time. He throws a spear in the ground. We swap to the next one. Let's go do Simon Says. Very nice. And now we swapped up to mage already, which is a ranged one. Let's get our range setup out. Start doing damage. Also, during Simon Says, you can hit the shadows. If you have like ranged or magic, you can hit them from far away. That's just a little trickier, so I don't really want to go over that too much. All right. Now we're in the final part of this fight. Very, very soon here. Oh, we'll do one more here. So let's swap to our prey melee, which is a magic one. Bring this out. Get the damage in. For this last one, you might want to top yourself off. Remember, it's okay to use your bruise here because this is basically the last hard part of the fight. And now you have to be using melee for this, so keep that in mind. So we're not actually praying against anything here. We're just going to be dodging these balls. It's a little tricky for me to explain because this honestly comes with practice, but I use a lot of shift click for precise movement. And all... Oh, I just lagged out. No way. Okay, well, hopefully that wasn't too bad. Okay, we're gonna heal back up here just because of that lag. So basically, I think the most important thing to do here is keep your movements small and deliberate. So if you start running around the room like crazy, you're gonna get into a lot of trouble. So instead, I just do nice small movements like this, and it helps me stay on my toes and kind of keep an eye out on what's coming next, right? This is the number one thing, is just get good at your movement here so that you don't take damage constantly. And the blue tile really helps me to like keep track of where I am relative to stuff. You can run through them by going 2 at a time, right? That's also a trick you can do. Find your kind of key points, look for safe spots, and always be looking for your next safe spot. You can pray at low invocation, you can pray magic. I believe it does help if you're praying magic. Otherwise, you can try to do redemption as a last opportunity as well. Okay, I do have my cheat death now, which is good, so I can kind of afford to do this for a while. Anyway, get your melee setup going, right? We have our melee setup out. Let's go ahead and start fighting him. Every 3 times we attack him, basically every 3 hits we get on him, this is a 0, so it doesn't count, right? That time I screwed up, right? But I'm going to keep trying to keep my movement. And it's okay if I need to wait a bit just to get safety and wait for my opportunities. Every 3 hits, he's going to move. 0s don't count, so... Yeah, it took quite a bit of damage there, so I'm just going to heal it back up. And we're looking for 3 guaranteed hits, right? With Piety, this also helps quite a bit too, so... Again, nice, small, deliberate movements. Always staying super deliberate, looking for my opportunity, and then taking the hit. That's why I can do this for a very long time, pretty safely. Okay, I'm probably going to have to proc cheat death here, just because it's taking a bit too long, and I don't really have my supplies on me anymore. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and proc it here. And we'll go back into the cycle. Hopefully I don't die with cheat death gone. Okay, so we hit him 3 times. Now we can head over to the next one. And you see, again, I'm just being very deliberate with my movement, not really rushing over there. I have plenty of time to get over there, you know what I mean? And again, let's go ahead and pray melee. Or sorry, let's do like Piety, or, you know, you can use like ultimate strength, ultimate attack. Basically anything to try to get that hit, you know? And wait for my opportunities here. take my time, you know, no rush. With Fang, it gets a lot better. I honestly think with 500s without Fang are quite difficult. So I probably wouldn't recommend that, but... Okay, so I'm just going to be super focused here because I don't really want to restart this entire thing because of a screw up here. Obviously, again, you should have more supplies. It's a little hard for me because I have to play with the intention of like showing the mechanics off. But yeah. Okay, we got 3 hits, so we go to the next one. Whew, it's so stressful now. Getting a little panicked there, but try to get your damage in. It's looking rough. You can kind of move away for a bit, reset, give yourself some room, and right back over when we get a little chance. And also sometimes you might be able to just like, chill a bit. Sometimes there's like opportunities where you don't have to move as much and you can just kind of afford to chill. All right. A bit of a stressful run there, but yeah, we did make it through. Again, you guys can see, hopefully that should show you that even with like no resources, you can get through this. Obviously I used cheat death, but like I was literally running around for like 5 minutes. With Fang, it helps a lot. With I mean, Defender obviously helps a lot here too. If you have basically any kind of like, if the whip helps a lot too, any kind of accuracy just helps. Definitely the hardest part of the fight. I would say for most people, this is the hardest part of the fight. So, okay, and we are through the 4 bosses. We are now at the final challenge. So when we go here to claim stuff, if you had claimed it before, I still have a smelling salt and I have a liquid adrenaline, right? So now what I can go ahead and do is, for some reason, if I need an extra salt, like this is kind of like a really nice one because it gives me an extra smelling salt. But honestly, most of the time I just go power first and then life second. This way I have just a ton of, I mean, this is so much resources that it's almost impossible. I would have to make a catastrophic amount of mistakes to die with this much health. So let's go ahead and choose this one. And now you can see I have a whole fridge right here myself. So let's go ahead. What I like to do is take 1 yellow, 1 pink, 1 white, take out the smelling salt, take out the adrenaline, take out the silk dressing, take out the blessed crystal. And the reason why I do this is because anytime I need more, I just set it up just like this. This is how I always set up mine. You can do whatever you'd like personally, but this is how I set up like my row of 8. Actually, go ahead and move this up because I don't really need this stuff anymore. The reason why I like doing this is, let's say I do drink like my nectar, for example, right? Okay, I drank my nectar, right? I can just hit shift. I set my shift to resupply and it fills it back up. I don't have to pull out more. It's just going to resupply automatically. And this even works with like the ambrosia. Let's say I drink an ambrosia here. I can resupply it. It's very, very convenient. Very nice. It also works with crystals and scarab seed. It even works with smelling salts as well, which is kind of cool. You can actually have your smelling salt in there and it will resupply it as well. So let's go ahead. With that being said, let's get into Wardens, the final fight. Okay. Now, my tiles here are a little bit wacky, but don't worry about too many of these tiles. They're a little bit unnecessary. I would say that the only 2 tiles that really matter, to be honest, are these 2 tiles right here. These are like the magic tiles I use. We're going to be starting mage first for this one. You can start range as well, and with range it's a little bit different because the guy hits you with melee. I might show that as well, but basically these are like the magic tiles you need to know. If you're able to 2 down, it actually doesn't really matter. You may want to just use, like, honestly, if you can 2 down, you may want to just do it with this side first anyways, like start here. But basically, whichever side you choose to go, there's going to be these little orbs coming out and you're going to have to tank them, and that determines if you're going to do the left side or the right side. I usually like doing the left side almost regardless, because the thing about the left side is that this guy cannot melee you, but this guy can melee you. So I really like to do this side first. However, with this side, you're going to have to do mage, range, mage. With this side, you're going to have to do range, then mage, then range. So I guess if you're a ranger, you might want to go with this one to be slightly more optimal because you get more range phases. But personally, I think if you're just learning off, start with this one. It's also going to make the last part a lot easier, in my opinion. But yeah, you're going to tank this stuff and head over to these magic tiles. So that's what we're going to be doing for this video. Okay, let's get our mage set up because we want to be doing, for phase 1, we're going to be doing as much damage as we can to this obelisk. That's like the goal, right? We're resupplied. Let's go ahead and pop a smelling salt and let's get into wardens. We're going to just start. There's no prayer here, so we're just going to go ahead and do begin osmontons. Move over here, and you want to tank about like 8 hits or so. Usually this puts me to about like 70 health or so, but that should be good. 7. Now here's the mechanics for this fight, basically. Right? These things are coming out. We're going to have a couple of these pyramids come out, right? And if we tanked enough hits, it should be offset by enough that we can go... You see, we're a little bad there. We could give ourselves a little bit more time. That was a little fast. Let's go tank a little bit more so we have a bit more time. Now, we're going to get these balls that come out and they do damage. And this whole time, just try to be doing damage to the obelisk. These things, you can't avoid them. They just do damage. In groups, the first one you want to be... I believe the first one you want to be spread apart, and then the second one you want to be stacked together, but it depends on which order you go in. Now you see I'm giving myself a little bit more time now so that I can do this properly. Now the pyramids come out. Let's actually use our Karis here. Heal back up to full, just for purposes, like learning purposes. Okay, very easy. Once you've tanked like 8 or 9 hits here and you've like offset the pyramids enough, this is really, really easy. We're gonna eat the damage. It's fine. We don't really care. Just do damage. Anytime you're scared, I would say, in this, feel free to just use your nectars to chew back up to full. You have a lot of them, so it's okay to use your resources. It is okay to use your resources, guys. Remember, look how much we have. We have like 4 Ceridon, or like 5 Ceridoman rooms. It's okay to just eat. It's okay to eat. Don't worry. You'll be fine. With this done, we've killed this part. Now we'll go ahead and start with this guy, right? This guy always starts with mage. You want to be attacking him with mage first, right? That's how this works. You attack him with mage first. He can't melee you, so as long as we're standing on this magic tile, we're actually totally fine. He has 2 attacks, a range attack and a mage attack. He can't use the melee attack. So we're just going to switch between whatever he uses. Ranged. And just to preserve my prayer, I'm going to flick off, but you could just hold it like this too. Now, this is the first special. We just run through it and run right back. That's it. It's super simple. This line comes back, but it actually misses us on the way back. So this is all we're going to do. This is the first blue. The blue orb is blue. Or sorry, the blue orb is, of course, blue. But that's mage. So you want to go back to mage. Basically, he's going to turn off your prayers. And you have to do the right one. This line is super easy. You get the windmill. Run through. I'm back. Right back to our tile. The arrow is gray. That's a range gray arrow. So we're going back. Skull is pink. Or skull is mage. Rock is range, basically. We go right back to our magic tile. We just run between these two over and over and over and over again. That's all we do. It's so easy. You don't have to move around a whole bunch. If you're feeling like you're taking a lot of damage, take your bruise. Now, so you can't melee us unless we get close, right? But this red sword attack turns off our prayers, and it is melee. Okay, so for the next special, these are the skulls, and again, it's random. Basically, they explode in like an X. So as long as we're like 2 tiles, and like a plus, then we can actually step into the skull and not take damage. Additionally, you can also just run away from it. That's also a fine option too. You can also just run away from it. You don't have to like intentionally walk into it. But like, imagine this was the thing, right? Like, let's say this was the explosion. It would be like this X pattern like this, right? So if the skull was landing here, you could step anywhere on this one. Basically, that's what I mean by the X. All right, let's mark our tile back up. Mage back up because it disables our prayer. Rock is ranged. Skull is mage. Mage tiles are back. Let's go ahead and do our ranged again. I'm going to Karis Partisan to get back to full. Dodge the windmill by just going to our magic tile. And you guys might think that the timing here is precise. It's actually not. It's actually really not. I can go right now because this is safe. Totally, totally safe. You see? Magic tiles, guys. And this is why, again, I really like going here, even if you were Ranger, and just take the extra thing, because that way you don't have to deal with this guy, and you don't have to deal with the melee hits. Disables our prayer, we turn mage back on because it's blue. Alright, let's start doing damage to the boss and actually start seeing stuff. Range for the rock. Oh, here are the skulls. Let's tank the explosion. This one's kind of annoying, so let's just go away from it. This one's kind of annoying, let's go away from it. This is a range, so it's an arrow. Mage. We're getting a little low on prayer. Let's actually eat a scarab to get all of our prayer back. And again, we're just changing our prayer, just like Zebak, right? Just like Zebak. Rock is ranged. The little skull is mage. This is red, so that's melee. Run through. Okay, and now we got this part. Let's bring our melee setup up, piety out, and we start going hard. We have very low special attack, but what you could also use is the dragon dagger and use the special attacks here. So we could go ahead and do this and use special attacks. Additionally, if you have berserker, it gets guaranteed max hits there. So that also works very well. Now, second phase, once we've done one down, we can switch back to range and we can start going hard again. This is a ranged one. For actually killing it's a little hard because I just have so few time to explain the core itself. But for the core itself, all you really need to know is that melee damage always does the max hit. That's why the Dragon Dagger Special is so strong. It always does the max hit. However, you can attack it with whatever you want. So it might be in your benefit to just attack it with your preferred style. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's totally fine to do that. This is a range. We put our prayer back on. I'm going to use a silk dressing here to get some of my health back. You guys see, I'm just using my range here. This is kind of annoying, so I'm going to go ahead and just dodge skulls here. I can stand right here and eat the skull, because I'm just 2 tiles away from it. You can also be 1 tile away too, it's no problem. This one's annoying, let's just move away from it and pray mage. And we're back. This is the melee one. Alright, we're good to go. Let's actually go ahead and take our mage book out and say, let's just deal mage damage to it, right? Let's not even worry about the melee setup. Let's just take our mage and just do mage. Or let's just do mage damage. It's still pretty good damage, right? It's not guaranteed max hit, but listen, it's good enough, you know? You could also use the dragon dagger if you wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that either. But this is fine. We're doing plenty of damage here. Let's use some tears. Resupply, get a full stock again. Now, we're a little too close because we moved him. So instead, let's move 1 tile back because we don't want him to melee us. This sometimes happens if you go too far, you're going to drag him. Okay, he's going to add a new attack when he's at below 60%, which is typically after 2 cycles. We do the same thing, though. We can run here, then we just wait and come back. So now we're just doing 1 tile back, basically. So this one is, if that thing hits you, that little rock animation, it freezes you in place. It's really not good. So just be a little bit more on your toes on this one and be ready to move. You can sometimes I like to move here. Just don't move close to him because then you can take damage. So see, I'm just moving 2 tiles. Again, nice and deliberate. Moved a little too close to him there. No, this is fine. You just took a range hit. Mage hit back on. Let's say I wanted to use my melee specs, right? Let's pop adrenaline. Turn this thing on. Now we can go ahead and get some specs in. And I popped my adrenaline because that is going to give me 8 specs worth of damage. So it's very convenient. Get a lot of damage over to the score. Very easily. Get back to your main style. And now that we're going into the last phase, pop that salt 1 more time so that we're good to go. And resupply. Make sure you're nice and healthy. Let's top off, actually. Let's go all the way, not to 100, but let's go past 100. All right. Welcome to the last phase of Wardens, and luckily we can basically chill here as long as we want to explain it, which is really convenient for me. Now, last phase of Wardens, it's a very simple cycle. You're going to go right while he attacks this way, right, left, middle. That's it. Your first time here, you may want to just spend time just chilling here and just getting the timing right. That's it. I have these 3 tiles back here that you can see, and basically if I go past these, there's a little bit of a delay. I have to wait a little bit longer because I have to wait for the animation. Does that make sense? And so just be careful if you're running in, because if I run up like this, I can accidentally run into it a little bit too early. But I like to be just around halfway here. I think it's nice and convenient. This is just where I like to be, nice and centered. And there's no rush here. We could literally sit here for 20 minutes if we wanted to and just practice this. This is why we have no time limit, because we can sit here and do as much as we want. Completely chill. Now, we do want to eventually start doing damage, right? So with Insanity, basically, it's very simple. It's going to be 2 attacks, 1 attack. 2 attacks, 1 attack. If you have Overclocked on, Overclocked 1 and Overclocked 2, it's a little slower, and I'm pretty sure you can get 2 hits every single time you move. That's how it works. But with this one, let's go ahead and start getting in the cycle. 1 attack. 2 attack. 1 attack. 2 attack. 1 attack. If you're scared, you just want to do 1, that's fine. No rush. Nobody's hurting you, right? You don't even have to pray right now. He doesn't do anything. You want to do melee? Okay. My melee sucks, so this is really slow, right? But you can do this with melee. You could do it with range. There's no rush here, right? Let's go back to mage. Get back into that cycle. And we're going to show you guys Skull Skip. You might see that I have a tile marked over here on the right, okay? This is because every 20%, he's going to summon skulls. You can go ahead and destroy these with melee, but personally, I think this is the much easier, much more brain-dead solution that becomes super easy. Go stand on this one. You can also stand here or here or here. All you're going to do, pull out a ranged weapon and just spam click this. Look at this. We're going to walk right through it. We don't have to do it. Complete the Skull Skip. And now we're going to start at the back and we're going to react to what he does. It's going to remember what the last one was in the cycle. So if you keep your eyes out for it, you can remember what the last one was. Or you could just stand in the back and just react to it. That's what I like to do. I just stand in the back because my memory isn't always perfect. And even then, you know, I don't want to tank a hit. If you do tank a hit, who cares? We're going to eat back up. We have plenty of supplies, right? Look at how much supplies we have. Let's get into the cycle. 2 hits. 1 hit. 2 hits. 1 hit. 2 hits. 1 hit. And just like that. Going all the way in. Alright, let's head back over. Now Zebak is going to come and join the party, right? Very easy. Wait for him to do his first attack. Pray properly. Start spamming. Skull Skip. We're going to sit at the back again because I have no idea what the last one was. And now all we have to do is get in that same cycle, but keep our prayer book open as much as we can so we can react to Zebak. Get back in the cycle. 1 hit. 2 hit. Okay, he did a rock. Let's just take the time to do this. Get back in the cycle. Two hits, 1 hit. 2 hits, 1 hit. 2 hits, 1 hit. Switch to the prayer. Okay, now the monkey also joins. How do we do this? Wait for the monkey to move, then start spamming. Now, let's go back to our mid tile. Every time you hear the monkey noise, you just need to move a little bit. And the cool thing is, if we're in cycle properly, we actually don't even have to think about the monkey. With Insanity, it's actually going to completely auto-solve. I'm just going to focus on Zebak and my movement. The monkey is completely a joke. He just always misses, as long as we don't accidentally, like, run back into ourselves. Let's start doing damage. I'm a little slow there, so let's just get our senses back, because I had to go do my prayer, right? So let's get back in the cycle. What usually ends up happening is you go slow and you do something like this on accident, and then you panic and you start running all over the place. Just chill out, right? Chill out. Get back into the... First things first, get back into cycle. That's the number one. Your number one priority is always get back into cycle. Then you can go ahead, eat some food, get your senses back, get our restore. We have full health, full prayer. If you panic, you can use your ambrosia too, right? But getting into cycle is your number one priority. All right, last one. We're gonna get him to 20%. Okay, so for this one, it's a little tricky. What you want to do is I usually like to wait for the monkey, and then I go. And then I just start spamming. And I'll always take one hit, but that's okay. I take one hit, but it's okay. It's just safer this way. Let's get the right prayer, and let's see. Oh, he started on this side, so let's go there. Back to the middle. Right, left, middle. We took the damage, that's okay. Let's just ambrosia. Get all the way back up to full. You could just use your nectars, though. Listen, I have so many nectars, right? How many? I got like 5 more nectars, it's fine. Or we got like 4 more nectars, something like that. We got a crazy amount, so it's totally fine. Right? Let's say you accidentally ate all of your nectar, right? What do? You can just withdraw 1. You don't have to actually manage. Just withdraw 1 and see what's left. Look at that. I got a couple nectars left in there, right? Now it's easy. So if I accidentally drank 1, I could just withdraw 1 and get another one out. Okay, resupply, make sure we're nice and healthy. Let's go ahead and get to the final part of this fight. Took a little damage there because I was slow. Back in cycle. Pray here. Remember, we're just kind of keeping our periphery lens or whatever, just looking at Zebak and reacting. Now, we're in the last part. If you have Executioner's Act, you can basically skip all this. But instead, what we're going to do is click, move. Click, move. We have to switch our prayer. Click, attack. Click, attack. Click, attack. Click, attack. And we're just dodging these. And we always kind of want to move in such a way that we're not running into these little dots on the ground, and we're not running into the monkey. So I like to do this kind of like big oval shape. Switch our prayer. There we go. And that's the Wardens complete. Very, very simple. If you start getting to those last rows, it can be a little challenging at the end. But your biggest priority is just don't get hit by the rock. The rock will combo you out the hardest. Take the time to, not get hit by lightning, and then just keep an eye out on the prayers as well. You can always pop an ambrosia if you're scared. Nice and simple, okay? And with that complete, let's go see if we got any loot. You're just gonna go to the very end here. And no loot for me this time, but listen, guys, that's a TOA. That's a 305 complete. It took me an hour and 20. It shouldn't take you that long. But you can get some pretty crazy loot here. So, yeah, I think that's just about it for this one. It went pretty long, but I hope you guys did learn something from this. If you have any questions about anything specific to, League stuff, maybe, what kind of setup you want to get, maybe you have a certain relic that might help you, let me know. I'm happy to answer questions. I just, we're at 2 hours now almost of recorded footage. So I want to make sure that I can get this done eventually. So again, with that being said, guys, I really, really hope this helped. The goal here is that you start off at 150 with all those small invocations, bump your way up to 305 slowly. And then once you feel confident at the 305 level, add those stats, because really the only difference between the 305 and the 505 is you're going to spend longer amounts of time in here. And if you're good about dealing with your resources, you should be able to get through this, although it might be a little difficult if you don't have... With Banker's Note, it should be fine because you can essentially go for an infinite amount of time with your supplies. Otherwise, it's going to be a little tricky. But yeah, that's probably the best strategy. Start at 150, slowly add some invocations, get up to that 305 level, add that 200 to bump yourself up to 500, and there's a lot you can get done. But even at the 300 level, I mean, let's look at my unique was almost 5%, right? So almost 5%. And if that's at 4 times the multiplier, you're still at almost 20% chance of a purple. That's not that bad, guys. 305s, 30%, or like a 20% chance at a purple, 25% if you already have tier 8. I mean, that's pretty good. And this honestly, this run could take me like maybe 35 minutes, maybe less if I'm going a little bit more optimally. So hopefully this helped. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this one's a long one, but it's been anticipated for a while. So yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.